All right, and welcome to another episode of Healthy Living with Dr. Linda Mitchell. And I am Dr. Linda Mitchell. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We have an amazing guest tonight that I'm super excited to introduce you to and to have a conversation with. You guys are going to love this conversation. We're talking about mental health and offering some strategies to you to support you with mental illness and mental health as it applies to your daily living. So today, before we go and read our guest's bio, I want to do a commercial. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Linda Mitchell. I am a holistic health coach. I am an author, and I'm the owner with my husband, David Mitchell, of Sweet Heart Mitchell Collection. Our guest tonight is a wonderful and loyal customer of ours. She's been with us for a little over a year buying our products, and we're so excited to have her on the show tonight. But before I bring her on, I would like to do a commercial. Tonight's product that I'm going to be spotlighting is our Island Breeze Whipped Shea Butter. Our Island Breeze Whipped Shea Butter. I think out of all of our shea butters, this is our top seller. And why is that? Because it makes you feel like you're on vacation. Yes, it makes you feel like you're on vacation. It's whipped. It smells like pina colada, got that pineapple, mango, coconut thing going on. And it's so lovely to apply to your skin because it goes on easy and effortlessly. And all you need is a little bit because we do not add water or alcohol to our products. They are 100% butter to moisturize your skin. So that's our Island Breeze Whipped Shea Butter. You can go to our website, www.sweetheartmitchellcollection, and get yours today. All right. So without further ado, we have our guest tonight, Dr. Latoya Nicole Edwards. And tonight she's going by Dr. Edwards. So Dr. Latoya Edwards is a LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. She's a licensed psychotherapist, a professor, and a holistic healer. And she's dedicated to guiding individuals from surviving to thriving. As the founder of her business, Thriving Well, Holistic Wellness Solutions, she integrates evidence-based practices like EMDR. We're going to have her talk to us about what that is. She also does brain spotting, somatic experiencing, and internal family systems with holistic modalities such as Reiki. I know about Reiki. I'm a Reiki master too. Hypnotherapy. She does tarot psychotherapy and shamanic healing to support deep emotional healing. I can't wait to hear about this. Dr. Edwards is widely recognized as the Afrocentric therapist. She's blending African-centered principles with Western psychology to help high achievers, executives, and strong friends navigate trauma, burnout, and life transitions, which a lot of us are going through right now. She is a sought-after speaker that leads workshops on mental health, yes, workplace wellness, and holistic healing. She helps organizations cultivate well-being from the inside out. With a passion for education, Dr. Edwards mentors clinicians and professionals through intensive coaching and consulting, empowering them to integrate holistic and trauma-informed care into their work. She is also an author, currently working on a book that is going to explore holistic mental health. Her focus is Afrocentric healing and navigating academia as a Black woman. I'm sure she uses a lot of the techniques that she offers in the African American community. I can't wait to hear about that. She's committed to decolonizing mental health. Dr. Edwards is reshaping how healing is understood. One conversation, one session, and one retreat at a time. Welcome to the show, Dr. Edwards. Good evening, Dr. Edwards.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me tonight on Healthy Living with Dr. Linda. I'm super excited to have you on the show, and I'm so excited to have you as a customer as well using our products here at the Sweetheart Mitchell Collection.
Yes, and a long time supporter of you. Love it, love, love, love it.
We love that. Absolutely love that. So, why don't you open up? I like to have my guests share with our audience the Cliff Notes version, if you will,
Okay.
of their story, right? I've read a very professional bio about you, and I just want you to open up by telling me what's your story? What got you into being a psychotherapist and doing the work that you're doing in the community, helping with the mental illness issue?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. I get it all the time, which is so funny because I love sharing the story, right? So I'm half Jamaican, which side note, that island breeze is amazing. That's an extra perk for you.
Thank you for that.
So, so I'm half Jamaican, and so my father came here as a sugarcane sharecropper to the United States, right? And
Mhm.
so he was in the U.S. for almost over 45 plus years before he transitioned. And I remember just learning, navigating things. Being, I tell everybody I'm Jamaican because I'm half. My mom is black, and then my dad is Jamaican.
I
So
love that.
born and raised here in the U.S., but just learning and blending those cultures too, and learning about some of the issues that immigrants are facing, right?
Yeah.
And when they're trying to become citizens or just navigating two worlds. And my mother grew up in Newark, New Jersey, in the foster care system, right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
so even though she had a traumatic upbringing, she didn't let that deter her. She later went on to get her associate's degree. She became a nurse, and she also was a part of the Army. And so just hearing her story of resilience, his story of resilience, and kind of having me navigate. People always kind of came to me and told me all their business. And I was always trying to find ways to connect them to resources or help them, and also just rooting for the underdog. And so I started off kind of wanting to be an attorney, but then I took a social work class, and it pretty much changed my whole entire life of like, you know what? I think I need to help people beyond law to really get that soul cleansing.
So we have two things in common. I'm
Okay.
from Newark. I was born in Newark. Okay, your mom was raised in Newark. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other thing is I used to want to be a lawyer too, an attorney.
Okay.
See how God matches us
Yeah,
up?
I love it. I used to tell people if Maxine Shaw and Claire Huxtable was a person, that's who I inspired to be.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Your story is incredibly powerful. It sounds like your dad, he was really a hero in your life, you know. You
Yeah.
really looked up to him as well as your mom, even after her, which when I was raised, I was actually born in Newark, but my mom took us out of Newark at that time. The crime rate was getting really bad,
Mm,
and she didn't want me to have a horrible experience
mm.
in Newark. So I can't really say I'm from Newark. So I just tell people I was born in Newark. But have you been to Newark? Have you had an experience going there at all?
I have been to Newark and I've been to Trenton because my mother actually, I can't remember the name of the high school, but the movie Lean on Me was actually the high school that my mother went to.
Wow.
And she said that was actually PG-13 compared to how it actually was attending that school.
Wow.
So yeah. So she but despite all that too, she did have people who were positive in her life,
Yeah.
and she always saw more. And so it kind of helped her. I do have some I have my half sister who lives in
Mhm.
Trenton, New Jersey.
Trenton.
And I
Okay.
have some others who live in some other parts of New Jersey as well too. So I've been
Trenton
in.
ain't no joke.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. She's not a joke.
Okay. Well, your family must be very proud of you.
Yes.
Well, let's get right into it because I understand that your approach to mental health and healing is very unique. And I want the audience to learn about your modalities that you use in your practice. Can you share how you integrate traditional psychotherapy with holistic and Afrocentric healing practices in the work that you're doing in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I tell everybody like my approach is more so rooted in the belief that healing happens at that intersection of the mind, body, and spirit. So with traditional psychotherapy or therapy, it's an important foundation. But for me, for true lasting healing, we have to go deeper, right? So
Mhm.
I'm addressing not only just the thoughts and emotions, but also how the body stores trauma, and also bringing in that spiritual and cultural dilemma, or dimensions, I should say, of a person's experience. So by that, you asked earlier about EMDR. So like I'll use
Yes.
EMDR, which actually stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing,
Okay.
and brain spotting, somatic experience, and IFS. So all of those together help the client process the trauma and reconnect with their inner self. So like another way to look at it will probably be like what um what makes my work kind of unique too is that I interweave that Afrocentric and indigenous healing practices too. So I would incorporate Reiki, sound healing,
Mhm.
shamanic journaling, even tarot psychotherapy too. So these really help our clients, my clients, really tap into that ancestral wisdom and
Mm.
also reconnect with their cultural identity. And as a result, they're not only healing their lineage, but they're also healing generational wounds in the
Yeah.
future, you know? And so I think it's just really key, you know, if we look at it in this frame of healing and we heal in a community legacy and a connection, if we're looking at it through an African centered lens, there's no I, it's an us, right? And
Okay.
so many of my clients have found that combining these different approaches really allows them to heal, not just mentally, but also on that soul level, which really creates that deep, but also I feel like substantial change.
Wow. And you want it to be substantial when you're doing this work. It's like peeling onion layers back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that you have the support of the ancestors supporting you, on that level is really important as well. As someone who's a Reiki master, I found my ancestors coming in the work.
Exactly. Yes. So you get it.
It's just like, wow, it's really amazing, the level of support that they provide us with. We have no clue, most of us. We just have no clue. Just blow our minds.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so fascinated about the work that you're doing and how you're integrating it into Western medicine. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So, what made you do that? How did you get to the point where you were like, this is it? Let me just pull them together.
Well, it's interesting because I've kind of always grew up, I guess you can say, floating in two worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because being able to still be my authentic self, but then also being able to understand the language of people who don't necessarily look like me, right?
Yeah.
And so all of the Asians you could also think of, ageism, sexism, things would always kind of come my way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I would always learn things, and I was oftentimes the only person in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would also learn that many of these practices would kind of come naturally to me. I would study as a kid. I remember going to the library, reading up on like spirituality, African centered practices, and stuff like that too. And my mother was also just very open about me learning about different religions and cultures. She was always saying, "Hey, I don't want you to just follow this because I'm Christian. I want you to be able, one day I'm going to be gone. And I need you to be standing firm on it." And so she made me do papers and reports, and I had to
Wow.
interview these different, higher ups and not only monks. It was just really cool. And I did this over the course of like 6 to 12 months. And I was like 12, 13. And
Wow.
so I thought everybody's parents did that. And then when I got, oh, they were
Mm-hmm.
like, no, they said, the black family, you follow what your mama says. And
Exactly.
so I always appreciated that. But I've always kind of had these various spiritual gifts, right? And I would talk to people, and as you know, as a Reiki master, when people come into the room, they sometimes will say, "Oh, what did you experience?" So you go first,
Yeah.
ask me to go. So I would tell them what's going on, and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like phenomenal," and it's just been really I want to say it's just been really dynamic. Just the more that
Mhm.
I learn more about it, I get more in tune with my gifts, the people that I serve, and it also helps guide me on that. So I will go to these westernized trainings, and I'm like, oh, let me break my eye because I'm bringing this back to my people that was probably already stolen anyway, and they've
Yeah.
changed the name. You
Yes.
and they told us at one point in life that these things were wrong, and then they go back and remarket it and say that it's a new modality, but we've already been doing it as a people. And so it's a way to help our people reclaim our power, And
Yeah,
so I'm like, oh no, I need to go ahead and make sure I'm speaking the language that helps my clients. So
I love
I
that.
always say I'm breaking your eye, not only my eye, but their eye, as well as how I see and how you see yourself.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. So, our next question is, many high achievers and strong friends struggle in silence.
Mm.
Because Black women, a lot of times we have to be strong, right? We've watched our mom being strong, our auntie, our grandmas being strong. How do your services specifically support those who appear to have it all together and to
Mm.
think that, that they don't need help, right? But internally, they're struggling on the inside.
Yeah, it's interesting too because like those high achievers and those strong friends, they're often overlooked when it comes to mental health because those are the ones that are, like you said, that strong Black woman. They're dependable. They're always there for others, but on the inside, they have a lot of unresolved stress, trauma, and they're just emotionally exhausted, right? And
Yeah,
so I love working with high achievers because we really are able to focus in on them. And I'm able to really create that space. They don't have to perform or hold it all
mm,
together. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
So we can explore the emotional tolls of always being the strong one, but I can also teach them how to balance that success with their emotional well being, as well as setting appropriate boundaries. Because when you're the strong friend, you oftentimes, not always, but many times you're lacking some boundaries, right? And
Yeah.
so I ended up developing some mysankopa intensives. And so that's a really, really powerful framework that I've developed where it really just allows me or allows the higher achievers to slow down and disconnect from like that external pressures. And we
Yeah.
can really work on those blocks and really help them redefine what their strength is and understand that holding it all together is necessarily a flex. I want them to be able to rest. And when they ask for help, how to process those emotions and be that holding space for them when I integrate those modalities.
So my next question would be is how do you get them to get present and to trust that you're providing them with a safe space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times high achievers, they have issues like control. They want to be in control all the time. Maybe they have not used to relaxing as much or trusting others to take them where they need to go, right? Do you have a special skill or technique that you utilize to support them with that?
Yes. So some of my practices doesn't even involve talking because some individuals may not want to talk. They're
Mm,
tired of talking and sharing their stories. But if a client wants to talk, I believe your narrative is very important, right? So
mhm.
I want to be able to give you that safe space to be able to talk and share your story. But then also at the same time too, if you want to just come in and we'll do some breath work or we'll do some yoga because I'm also a yoga instructor as well too. But
Wow.
and I also do Thai yoga. Thai yoga is a little bit different. That's where I'm actually manipulating and moving your body. Because
Mm,
again, I tell your clients that your body will respond before it even hits your brain, right? So some of those migraines, some of those cricks in your necks, you find yourself, we hold it sometimes as Black women in our hips, right? So those
yeah.
might be tight, right? And
Yeah.
so really helping you literally move that trauma out of your body, and you can actually feel it. A lot of people, they might cry right there on the table, right there on the floor, whatever we're doing, but those movements are also very much so intentional too, right? And
Wow.
so everything that we do, and I tell clients, there's going to be days you're going to love me coming in. There's going
Mm,
to be days you're probably going to be extremely pissed off at me, right?
mhm.
Because therapy is not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be a happy moment, right? If you're working with me, I want you to get better. I'm always talking myself out of a job. So that's also why I do the intensives too. Because let's say a person doesn't necessarily want to come for to see me weekly or every other week. An intensive is 1 to 3 days. We knock out anywhere from 6 to 16 sessions in 3 days.
Wow. Is that a
And
group? That's a group or
that's
is
one
it?
on one. That's one on one.
Ah, okay.
So it's customized to you. Whatever
Mhm.
you need, you're coming in, and we're knocking the ground rolling. And I always share, my story in reference to what my expertise is in. And
Yeah.
like I said, many times when people they come to me, they're coming to me because I'm speaking their language. Like, you know what, I'm exhausted. I'm tired of trying to put it together,
Yeah.
or I'm finding myself constantly getting sick. What is going on? And that's where I also will even too. I tell them what to eat as well too. I partner with other colleagues like yourself, and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, utilize this, because I tell clients, you're the CEO of your life, right? And as
Yes.
the CEO of your life, you have chairs, right? I'm one of those chair members for you, right? And
Okay.
so you might need a body worker. That's where that Thai yoga comes in. But also, if
Mhm.
you don't want to do Thai yoga, maybe a massage therapist, an esthetician, because it can also show up in your pores and your skin. As you're detoxing these bad things out of your body, you see it as a breakout, but you're depending upon where it is on your face, I
Mhm.
can tell you what's exactly going on too. The moment that you walk in, I can see what chakras are out of line. And because I'm trained on the spiritual realm too, as well as the westernized side too, we combine those together, and I can tell you right now, this is what's going on.
I love this, Dr. Edwards. I mean, when you were talking about the hips, I remember when we moved here, like 3 years after we had been living here, my hips went into their own experience. I don't even
Hmm.
know what to call it. It was like they was locked, and I consulted a massage therapist because um, that's what I knew. I didn't know you at the time, but she said that I was standing in the same position all the time, and there was no mobility happening to open my hip flexors and my, and I had no idea. But I've learned since then that the body needs movement, but
Hmm.
I'm learning from you that it needs more than just movement. There's something physically going on with my body, on a spiritual level and a physical level during that process, right?
Yeah. And if you were stressed during that time as well too, that's probably why when you just moved somewhere. I
Yeah.
don't know if you had children at the time, but anytime you're stressed, whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
it shows up in different parts of your body. But then
Mm.
once it's released, so you're able to articulate what's going on,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this feels so much better.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It moved. It went from cold. I had cold shoulder. That
Hmm.
went away. Then it went to my hips, and that's why I keep going to a massage therapist. So tell me, if I was to come to you, like, how would you? Like my hips, they're fine now because she opens them up and she does gives me all these exercises to do before I get out of the bed. So what would that look like for you if I came to you for my hips to get support?
Well, it will be a couple of things. So typically they may not come in and say my hips are hurting. They
Hmm.
might come in and just say, hey, I'm stressed, or, I'm burnt out from work, or I'm going through some transitions with my relationships and things of that nature. And so
Yeah.
I might ask some additional questions about what's going on within your body as well too. So then
Mm.
I customize all of my services to every client. So I could have 5 clients coming in for anxiety, but every single issue is different, right? And
Wow.
so one client might incorporate some body work, one might incorporate some Reiki, one we might do incorporate some tarot psychotherapy, one we might incorporate all of them, right? And
Yeah.
so it's kind of whatever that person is needing in the moment. And so they'll tell me what some of their goals are, what they want to achieve, and what they're
Yeah.
hoping to get out of the session. And then
Hmm.
from hearing their story, because I always get the backstory, because their backstory is important. And then that helps me then say, okay, based off of what you're saying, this is what I can assist you with. This is the treatment plan that I have for you. And I
Yeah.
would like to incorporate these things. You can tell me no. It's totally up to you. But those are just the things that I kind of offer to them as well.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Everything is customized, and I can relate to that. That's like someone walking up to my table and me asking them questions to find out what products that they need to support them internally. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your powerful intensives. They're called Sankofa intensives. What are they, and how do they differ from traditional therapy?
Yes. So I kind of tapped in a little bit earlier. So they're designed really to for people who are just ready to go deeper and just experience a breakthrough. So like I said, unlike that traditional weekly therapy, which kind of is spread out over a couple of months or years, even times, Sankofa intensives are really condensed down to really it's really highly focused and it's an immersed format, right? So it could
Hmm.
be a half day, a full day, or multiple days, right? So, like I said, it could be one day up to 3 days. And so during that therapeutic work is where I'm combining those holistic and spiritual practices. So that's when I'm doing the EMDR. I'm giving them different grounding resources, right, to also prepare them for some of the deep work that we're hearing. Nowadays, the buzzword is like, inner child work or shadow work, right?
Yes, yes.
from a therapy from a therapy practice, inner child work and deep inner child work is attachment issues, right? And
Hmm.
so we're going back and seeing what's going on there. I'm also looking on lineage on what side. I don't have my tuning forks right in front of me too, but I also do biofield tuning. So if biofield tuning, I can tell you exactly the age utilizing my tuning
Wow.
forks and let you know if it's on dad's side, mom's side, and then just from that we're able to flush it out, and
Yes.
we can either talk or you could just let the sound, flush it out. And then if I need to integrate some other spiritual practices or the brain spotting or the EMDR, I'll incorporate those as well too. um, Breath
I
work.
love that. I love that. I mean, you're so talking my language. I am an inner child facilitator.
Hmm,
We should probably do some workshops together.
you
I did
should.
a I did an inner child facilitator. I had about 35 women there. I did it here in Hampton, and I've always wanted to do a second one. I did it July 2 years ago, and
Okay.
it was amazing. The women had an incredible time, and they've asked me to do another one, but it was so much work. I said, "Oh, unless I have somebody else doing it with me, I am not doing that by myself."
I understand.
Because although the concept is really great and women love it, and it's needed for men as well, it's important to have support throughout that process of getting it done. So I want to talk to you about that offline to see if you might be interested in doing something again
Yeah.
for the inner child work, because it's so needed. And a lot of women, they haven't even heard about it. They don't even know what it is.
You're right.
And I became a facilitator because I went through my youthful experience, and I felt like I was gypped of my own personal inner child experience.
Okay.
And so as I was going through my therapy and my counseling,
Mhm.
I became certified through Louise Hay. Do you know who Louise
Oh
Hay
yeah,
is?
I've read her books.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She has some really good. I've used some. I've referenced her, and
Yeah.
it's holistic healing as well too. She got some really great work. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Now, when I became certified, she was alive. Since then, she's transitioned on.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I did have a chance to talk to her on a conference on audio.
Okay.
She presented in the room, but I didn't physically meet her. And so I just feel like every time, we're out there doing this inner child work, she's with us on a spiritual
Mhm.
level to make sure we keep the work alive.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So let's talk about for those that are listening who are feeling stuck. Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed.
Hmm.
Maybe they're feeling a little disconnected, right?
Hmm.
They need some advice. What they can take and do today to start their healing journey. What would you suggest to them?
There's a couple of things. So I'm a therapist. I'm always going to suggest therapy. You don't necessarily have to come to me, but looking up, different therapy sites. There's therapy for Black girls, therapy for Black boys or Black men, Psychology Today, just to name a few. Um, but I think also too, starting off with journaling, right? There's so much you can do in just writing down some stuff too. We sometimes have a lot of stuff in our head, and so just journaling for a few moments can allow us to kind of take some of that stuff off and allow us to really think something through.
Yeah.
Also, breathing. Sometimes when we are going through things, when we're feeling stuck, we find ourselves holding our breath because we're so overwhelmed. So
Yes.
something just simple, like I call it the 5, 7, 8 breaths, where you would inhale for 5, hold for 7, and then exhale out of your mouth for 8. Okay. And just do that for like 2 to 3 rounds, right? And just kind of notice, what's happening within your body when you just do those breaths, right?
Mhm.
Um, because it's not uncommon for all of us to get, stuck and wanting some type of small relief, you know. And so I would say if the breath work and the journaling is sufficient for you, then you should be good to go. But if you want to go a little bit deeper too to find out where you're feeling stuck or why you're feeling stuck too, I would definitely say, hey, try out some counseling. And counseling isn't forever. I think a lot of people think that when you go to therapy, you're going to be in therapy forever. And I say you can be in therapy for a month, it could be a few months, it could be a year, right? Because our job as a therapist is I don't want you in therapy for life. My
Mm.
job is to I talk myself out of a job all the time. There's
Mhm.
1.7 million people who struggle with anxiety and depression, right?
Mm.
So why am I going to hold on to one client? My job as a healer is to make sure that you have the tools to heal yourself, right? I'm just merely a vessel, right? And also a mirror to show you things that may have been an unhealthy pattern. Once we get
Yeah.
out of that stuck point, my job is then done. If there's a new goal that you want me to help you achieve, by all means, I'm here to help, right? But then after you achieve those goals, I want you to, go off and say, hey, if you need me again, come back. But if you don't, I'm okay with that too.
I love that. What would some of your clients say that have been some of the things that you've helped them with that have helped them, with a particular situation? Or let's share one of your most big milestones. I think.
Yeah, so I have a couple that I love bragging about. I don't work in the substance abuse arena anymore, but I did have a client who was smoking marijuana multiple times a day.
Hmm.
And we did a brain spotting session. After 2 sessions, they completely stopped.
Wow.
And they had actually reconnected with me a few months ago. And this was maybe about 3 years ago. And they were like, they're still not smoking. And it was very transformative. Um,
That's powerful right there.
yeah, I do hypnotherapy, but specifically, I do it also for like women who want to deliver naturally. And so I actually do hypnotherapy not only with the mother, but also their spouse, right? Because a lot of people don't think about, the anxiety that other parent is having and experiencing. And so I do that for both of them. So I've been able to successfully through hypnotherapy, it's been 59 clients. And of
Ooh.
those 59 clients who I've done hypnobirthing with, all but two had delivered their child in under 8 hours.
Wow. Wow. So, okay. So first, I want to talk about brain spotting because I don't know what that is, and I'm thinking that a lot of people don't know what that is.
Clear.
So, can you tell us a little about that, and then tell us about the births and how you're helping the moms through hypnotherapy to deliver? I guess without an epidural, right?
Yes, I had some that still did epidural, but they still used my hypnobirthing and they still were able to deliver under. I had one that was like 22 hours. She did an epidural, and I had another one that was 15. So I said, it was everybody but two. I said, I'm going to include y'all in the data, but everybody
Sure. Why not?
everybody else was under 8 hours. Um, so a little bit about brain spotting. So brain spotting is similar as EMDR. So
Okay.
typically I tell people is that when we experience trauma, for example, right? I always say anxiety has us worried about the future. Depression has us thinking about the past, and neither one of them allow us to be in the present, right? And
Mm,
so when trauma happens, for example, think of like that broken record. It's constantly skipping, it keeps going over and over and over again. That's how trauma happens in the brain, right? And so, brain spotting, they say where you look affects how you think and feel. But then I go further and say where you look affects how you heal. And so, with that, I was actually trained by the developer of Brain Spotting, Dr. David Grand. And at the time, um, your body will naturally gaze, your alpha and actually gaze at certain spots that will take you back to certain movements and times. And so I utilize a pointer, or sometimes it could be a gaze, where I'm able to journey with that client to pinpoint exactly when an issue may have occurred, right? And we utilize music sometimes, and during that time, we're able to go right to the issue. And typically, with brain spotting, 1 to 3 sessions, they're good. I've done it with couples. I've done it with children and youth. I've done brain spotting in a group setting and formats when I did yoga, and it's very, very transformative. It's very fast. The best way that I can tell people is that I actually designed a framework specifically for African American and Caribbeans, and I actually presented that a few years ago at the International Brain Spotting Conference, and it allows us to get straight to the point. So again, I told you I'm a therapist, and I do not like you to be in therapy forever. So
right.
brain spotting, we come right in with the issue, 1 to 3 sessions, we got to it, and we can really make some continuous breakthroughs. We built that rapport, and through that processing, we can find out where that stuck point is to move you forward. So now, instead of us taking 6 or 9 sessions to find out what the issue is, now it's down to 1 to 3, and we can really go deeper
I love that.
in those sessions.
I love that. So, is it limited to any particular topics at all, or wherever they need support?
I've been trained in, I'm also a consultant for brain spotting as well too. So I've been trained in brain spotting for various things, anxiety, depression, trauma, OCD. I'm not trained in the setup for grief, but I have done it with in a group setting. I've also done it with a compound grief and also generational. So I do it through an ancestral lens too, where we go back and we heal the legacy. So I had another mother that she was breastfeeding, and for whatever reason, she couldn't produce milk. We
Mm.
did a brain spotting session, and with after one session, she was able to produce milk like that. And it came from a trauma of their house got broken into, and so her body responded and shut down.
Wow.
Once I was able to create that safe nest for her, she was able to then produce milk and her body felt safe again.
It's just mind blowing, how things are stored. That's what I'm hearing you say, in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us might not even be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know.
and that's why I do it more so with black people, people of color, because we were conditioned to like not show our emotions, right? That resting bitch face, people don't even realize that's ancestral, right? Because
Wow.
back in the day, during slavery times, if we were to show emotions, things of that nature, we would be beaten, right? So we
Yeah.
don't even realize that these things that we carry are things that were trained in us too, or we don't always highlight all of our accomplishments because we don't want to be seen as too smart because we're going to get in trouble, right? Because back then, if you were too smart, your son was sold.
What?
So that's why you will hear people now talk about, oh, he's dumb. He's not that, because the mother is trying to save her child, but that young boy doesn't realize what mom is saying. And by the time he's old enough to realize, the damage has already been done.
Oh my gosh. We're still recovering from the things that were instilled in us during slavery. It's just, and to that point, I want us to talk about those of us that believe that Black people don't get counseling, Black people don't get psychotherapist support. I want us to go into that because that's really a myth, first of all. And how do you have that conversation with them, or what do you suggest I tell customers that I could suggest refer over to you when they bring that up? But we don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because a while ago, back in the day, therapy was deemed a quote unquote white, a white service,
Yep.
right? Or people
Yep.
who had a ton of money, right?
Yep.
And
Mhm.
which is very intentional why I show my face on as a part of my brand, right? It's
Yeah.
intentional that I have sister locks, right?
Yeah.
That was very intentional. I've had natural hair. I've had my sister locks for like 13, 14 years, but I've had natural hair my entire career.
Wow.
And that was on purpose because I don't conform. I need our clients to know that there's somebody that looks like you that's looking across from you.
Oh, I love that. I
And
love that.
so, but I also, so it's intentional. It might be, I came to you because of your hair, right? And then we even have a conversation about that too, and how that is also embedded within us psychologically as well too, right? And about wearing our hair the right way and how we
Natural, yes.
show up. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yes, I
And
see it.
all of those things. So I think me being here, showing up and saying, hey, it's someone who looks like you that you don't have to code switch on, right? You're
Yeah.
not crazy. Your
Yeah.
coworker is saying some crazy stuff. Your mama
Yes.
did say something, and I know you want to cuss her out, but you can't because that's your mama culturally. But what are
Yeah.
some boundaries that we can set that are still appropriate for you, and you feel like, you know what, I'm not disrespecting mom, but I'm also still holding true to myself. And
Yeah.
so I will say that a lot of the millennials and Gen Zs have really been coming through over the last several years, really trying to say, you know what, I want to get help. But their parents are watching. They're like, you know what? Oh, okay, let me come on into therapy because it's not just this. And so I always say it's a domino effect, right?
Okay.
So when you started and you said this is an unhealthy pattern,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Then your family might be like, oh, I didn't know that that was unhealthy. Well, what else your therapist say, right? And
Yeah.
so they're teaching them. So I will sometimes over explain to my client, not because I think they're dumb, right? They know I have a big fancy degree, but I'm not going to use all them big words. We're going to keep it simple, right? Because I
Love
want
it.
you to be able to understand it and explain it to somebody else.
Yeah, that's
And then
good.
everybody gets therapy and everybody is healing, and they're not bringing these things forward. And I think having more therapists of color speak is making more people of color say, you know what? I think I can talk to somebody now because I feel safe.
Love that. Woo, I love that. That is so good. I mean, how often have we gone to get support and we haven't seen someone that looks like us,
Mhm,
whether it's at work and we're the only executive in the room that's
mhm,
African American and everybody else is Caucasian and we don't have that comfort level,
mhm,
or, we see others getting promotions that don't look like us and we work just as hard, if not harder than them. I love what you stand for. I love what you represent. We need you in our, I guess our team, right, of self care and self love. That's really why I wanted to have you on Healthy Living with Dr. Linda today, because I knew that the work that you are doing needs to be gotten out there. And I wanted to give you your flowers because a lot of times folks get these movie stars on, the folks that are the real stars are the ones that are helping those in everyday life in our community like you. So, Dr. Edwards, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I thank you for your passion in the community. You are so gifted. You've got so many skills. As we're talking, I'm like, wow, she does that. She does that. Some of those skills we share. I would love to collaborate with you, or for us to get together offline and see how we can do something in the community
yeah.
together to support, women of color, all women, but specifically women of color. I do want to talk about how mental illness shows up for the baby boomers versus the
Mhm.
generation X. The different age brackets that are out here. Have you noticed that you have to speak a different language to an individual based on where they are in their life?
Yeah. So, it's that's actually a really good question because I always say like mental health challenges are often shaped by different generationals experience as well as social norms too, right?
Yeah.
So, I always say too like, depression, anxiety, trauma, those are constant across multiple generations, but the symptoms for those individuals and how they respond, that varies by the culture and generation. So I'll break it down further. So let's say like baby boomers. That's anybody born, anybody who doesn't know in the audience between 1946 and 1964, I think. If I'm wrong, fact check me. But I always said the baby boomers, they were pretty much raised during that time where mental health was stigmatized, right?
Mhm.
So many of those individuals were taught to push through. They avoid discussing like their emotional struggles, and as a result, their depression and anxieties will show up more somatically. So that's where they're going to experience those physical complaints like headaches, fatigue, constant pain, rather than emotional stress, right? And so
Mhm.
they'll just be like, oh, I just worked all this time. That's why my body is tore down. No,
Yeah.
your body is responding to that depression, that trauma and anxiety, right? And so they often too during that generation, they might also engage in substance use or they
Mhm.
become workaholics, right? As a coping mechanism, right? So that's what with baby boomers.
My hand is raised on that. I'm not a baby boomer, but I am a workaholic.
So then we have Gen X, right? So
Hmm.
those individuals born between 1965 and 1980. So
Okay,
those,
that's me.
okay, all right, Gen X. So they tend to be more open to therapy, right? But they still struggle with balancing their emotional health. And also, there's that societal pressure around work and family, right?
Yeah.
So, this generation was really the first to really see that rise of mental health awareness, but there's still some hesitation, I would say some hesitation, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
about fully embracing emotional vulnerability. So, you'll also see within Generation X the burnouts, the perfectionism, right?
Yes.
And anxiety. So those are going to be really common within the Gen X group, right?
Okay.
So now those Gen X, remember I just said they were the first to kind of bring awareness to it. So
Right.
then they raised those millennials and Gen Zs, right? So
Right.
The millennials and Gen Z, that's 1981 to 1996 for millennials, and then Gen Z's is 97 to 2012, right?
Okay.
So they have now grown up in this era where like mental health conversations are more normalized, right? They're
Hmm.
also more likely now to seek therapy, and they'll even use languages around like mental health openly. That's when you'll see people talking about on TikTok, Instagram, right? So
Hmm.
social media is also very constant, and it's also their way to be connected and also introduce them to new challenges. But because they're now open into this world of like technology, technology and the internet, right? They
Right.
now find themselves comparing their culture. They're experiencing cyberbullying, and some of them are not going out outside as much like we used to back in the day. So they're
Yeah,
also experiencing a lot of increase of social anxiety. Does that
that's
make
right.
sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I would say probably the younger generation is more willing to seek help, and they're able to name their experiences. And like the older generation, they struggle with recognizing mental health as a legitimate health issue because of
Mhm.
how they were taught, right?
Right. Right.
So, but all of them now, I'm seeing a influx of multiple generations now recognizing that mental health is actually really important for their physical health. So now there's a positive shift.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to kind of break down at least the generations
Yeah.
because to kind of give you the mindset and why some might be a little bit hesitant and also why some might be more open and willing to go.
So, did I hear you correctly when you said that the younger generation may be inspiring the older generation to get support by sharing their experience and their progress with maybe their parents, their aunts and uncles, the family members?
Yes. And also too that building of trust. So if somebody younger that they trust is saying, you know what, I'm going to therapy, they're a little bit open. So, you know how you asked me earlier about like how do I build trust with somebody too? So
Yeah.
like building trust, like I said, I might tell somebody my bio or even when they look on our website, I use inviting language so they kind of get an understanding of what therapy is going to be like for me or any of the therapists that work for me, right?
Yeah.
And so that helps really break down those stigmas, and then over time too, there's no longer this disconnect or even that external pressure
Yeah.
um, with trying to show off or try to hold it all together.
I love that. I love so they can just show up and be themselves and
Yes.
trust that there's a safe space, a safe environment for them to do their healing in. That's very important for their progress.
Yes. I always say mental health is a human challenge,
Mm,
not a, oh, I'm weak. So that's why I'm asking for help. Every human experiences a challenge, right? And
yeah.
so part of our job is to be able to learn ways to break away from those challenges or learn coping skills that we're no longer challenging, you know.
So what has been your biggest challenge working with our community?
So I would say biggest challenge I haven't experienced, believe it or not, a challenge within our community with wanting to work. And I
That's
think
good.
it's because I offer so many different modalities to
Hmm.
people where they are.
Hmm.
Like I didn't even mention this in my bio or even tell you this, but I also do nature therapy. So we hike, we walk, getting that sun out and
Love that.
beaming on your skin,
Vitamin D.
you know, and then also, we did some plant therapy. We garden
Yeah.
because my father came from farmers. And so we link all of those things and really connecting with earth and seeing things grow and speaking goodness into those plants and those herbs. You see what I'm saying?
I
That's
do.
also bringing you fulfillment too, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's bringing that therapy to you.
I love that. Oh, I love that because putting your feet in the grass or in
Hmm.
the dirt or in the sand is very grounding. You know, me, I'm a thinker and a visionary, so I'm always thinking big, and I have to stay grounded in order to make sure I'm able to stay balanced, get out of my head and stay in my body.
Hmm.
And I use the grounding technique, walking in nature, putting your feet in grass, my feet in the grass, my feet in the sand, just
Hmm.
to help me to get out of my head. So I know that nature walk, it definitely helps. And the planting, putting your feet, your hands in dirt, putting your
Hmm.
hands in that dirt, very
Yeah.
helpful.
It's just another way too, and even thanking, the dirt and the grass for growing and applying that nourishment that I need to eat the food that I just grew. And it's just
Right.
very empowering.
That's that's so good. No, it is. It's so good. And, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that as I'm working with the client, I know what modality to pull, if
Hmm.
you will. And so, talk to me about that over the years. You know, have you gotten that mojo down where you're like, oh, she needs this. Oh, she needs this.
Yes, I can pretty much know within the first three sessions,
I
like if
love
I'm the right client, right therapist for the client, what
that.
I'm doing. So I have a very comprehensive intake,
Yes,
and
that's good.
it's very holistic, mind, body, spirit. And so, based off of me even getting the paperwork and then doing that initial intake with them, I can pretty much build out their treatment plan within a day. And
Love
then
it.
I'm like, hey, bring back your goals and we can compare
Yeah.
and see if I'm like aligned with what you're talking about. And they're like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. Or I didn't even know I needed this, but I'm intrigued to learn. And so a lot of the clients that come in, they're open. And but they also have a choice because I want them to be through a strength perspective, an empowerment perspective. I want you to be able to say, I don't want to do that. And that's okay. Or I want to do that.
Yeah, have a say so, or maybe they're just not ready for it right now. But
Mhm.
as you're healing them and helping them in other areas, they'll get to a point where, hey, I'm ready for that now. You
Yes.
know.
Hmm.
So, share with us. One of the things that keeps coming up in my mind is insurance.
Yes.
How does that work with your customers? Do you take insurance? Do most folks pay you out of their pocket? What are your offerings in terms of payments?
Yeah, so I do accept insurance. I would say I would take most commercial insurances. We do accept some Medicaid plans. It just depends. Also, too, there's anybody I guess offers the unique services that I do. But if someone calls and it's something that we can't service or we don't specialize in, I do have a referral list of colleagues that I've vetted and I trust to say, hey, we can't offer this service to you, but this person can. And then we do take private pay. I always take private pay.
Love that. Love that. Do you do any virtual or online sessions, or are all of your sessions in person?
Yes, I would say since COVID, although I have a physical office, I would say probably about 97% of the clients, unless they wanted to do some of the nature things, are online. So pretty much they can see us from the comfort of their home if they want to. But if they decide they want to come in the office, we can do that too. And then, like I said, I have clients that are like, oh, let's do our nature walk, let's do our walk and talk, or let's do those things, and we'll meet in person. So about 97% are all virtual now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is amazing that you can do such phenomenal work in your space and they're in their space.
Hmm. Uh-oh.
That's really great. That really is awesome. So, as we prepare to wrap it up, I want to, first of all, I just want to thank you for being so amazing. I really can't tell you enough how much I appreciate the work that you're doing in the community and the impact that you are making on our community on a daily basis. I just want you to take a moment to tell the viewers, whether they're watching live or whether they're watching the replay, like if they decided to develop a relationship with you and move forward with you, what would be the next steps? What would it look like to get your support?
Yeah, so at the bottom of the screen, you'll see my website, which is www.latoyaedwardslcsw.com. If you go on there, I actually have a listing of some of the holistic services that I offer. If you're interested in learning more about the therapy practices, just click on the therapy site and you can locate there too. I also have I own a group practice. So we also have therapists that specialize in various things too. So we have a teen adolescence therapist, we have a grief therapist, and we also have a therapist that sees a mixture of both individuals and, sees a mixture of both um, children, adults, and teens as well too. So all of us have different specializations, and when you call, my admin will make sure that she's providing you or linking you to the therapist that best suits with your needs and what you're going through. So we really try to make sure that it's intentional. We're not just giving you somebody. The therapist that is selected for you is somebody that specializes in what your area of need is. And so you can also follow me on social media. It's thriving_well. You can find me there on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or even LinkedIn as well too. And so I'll be happy to have you, and I would love to answer any questions that you might have.
So thank you for that. And so as we prepare to wrap it up, Dr. Edwards, any final words or thoughts to the community that you just want to share with them to encourage them to seek support in the area of mental illness, where they might have a little hesitation?
Yeah, I think asking and identifying, knowing that you want to feel different. You know, if you're tired of being tired, if you feel like you are running on E, you're burning things on both ends. If you feel like, you know what, I just want to just vent to somebody for a moment, right? Am
Yeah.
I the problem? Because everybody else is saying I'm the problem, right? So
Yeah.
maybe having somebody who doesn't know me, who can have a non-biased opinion and is trained to help me too. Or if you're like, am my friends really giving me good advice? Or are they just in my corner because they're my friends, right? And
Right.
so as a therapist, our job is to also to rip off that band-aid of some things that we've been trying to cover up too, right?
Mhm.
So if you want to dig deeper, we can go as deep or as slow as you would like as well.
I love that. Well, thanks again for being on the show. You're amazing. Again, we appreciate the work that you're doing in the community, and thank you for myself and my husband for being a loyal Sweetheart Mitchell Collection customer. We know you love our sea moss and our syrups and our juices, and we just love having you as a customer. But I was like, there's more to this relationship. There's absolutely more. I've got to have her on the show. So thank you for being so amazing, Dr. Edwards. I really appreciate you.
And thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Every time I see you, I'm running up to you and like, oh, let me fill up some info, get some cards and spread them out to other people. So thank you. I'm glad we crossed paths.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
All right, you guys. Dr. Edwards was absolutely amazing tonight. She's doing some amazing things in the community. I mean, the psychotherapy, the hypnotherapy with, women that are giving birth to children, and she's able to help them get through that process with or without an epidural. The Reiki practice that she's, offering, the brain spotting. I had never heard of that, helping folks get rid of things like smoking, whether it's smoking marijuana or cigarettes. Just the tuning forks, her being able to pull all her modalities out to be able to successfully support the community is absolutely amazing. And I just wanted to give her flowers while, she's above ground, because a lot of times, women like her that have the skills, the knowledge, the education are overlooked in the everyday community. And that's why I do this show, Healthy Living with Dr. Linda, because we have so many women in the community that are really out here helping the community to be healthy on the inside and healthy on the outside. And she's absolutely one of them. So you guys make sure you go to her website. You can go to LaToya Edwards, LCSW.com, or you can find her on social media at thriving_well. She's on Instagram, she's on TikTok, and she's on Facebook. And I know she's on LinkedIn. And reach out to her, or refer someone over to her that you feel might require her support, that could use her help, and just maybe they want to get a consultation with her. I highly, highly suggest her. And so with that, I want to end by doing my Sweetheart Mitchell Collection commercial. And so today's product is the Island Breeze Whipped Shea Butter Moisturizer for your skin. This is our top selling moisturizer that just reminds you that you are on vacation. It's called Island Breeze. It's whipped to a T. You use it from head to toe. It's a great moisturizer for your skin. It smells like you're in the Caribbean islands or like you're on vacation or like you want to be on vacation. Okay. I use it on my skin from head to toe. I put it on my feet at night. I suggest to my customers that they do the same because it makes your feet very pedicure friendly. So when you go and get those toes done, they're not as rough, they're very soft, and it lingers. So when you walk by someone, they're going to say, something smells good. And you'll be like, that's me. Got my Island Breeze on today. So you can go to our website, www.sweetheartmitchellcollection, and type in Island Breeze, and it'll come up and you can order it. We ship all over the domestic United States, or you can order it and pick it up here locally in the Hampton Roads area at one of our local events. We're at the local farmers markets on the weekends, and during the week, we're at One Life Fitness in Hampton. We're also at Ivy Glam in Hampton in the Peninsula Town Center. So we've got quite a few locations. And if you want to talk with us directly, you can call us on 757-797-0808. I want to thank you guys for joining the show, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay. Please leave us some comments. And again, reach out to Dr. Edwards if you'd like to hire her, get her support as a psychotherapist. And I want to thank you for joining the show tonight. Have a great evening and good evening.